Hi, here we are at Ivy Green. This is the birthplace of Helen Keller. It's here in Tuscumbia, Alabama. We're going to take a tour of the grounds and go inside the house. Years ago, Captain Keller's mother and father are the ones that built this house. David and Mary Keller came here from Virginia. They purchased 640 acres. Now we only have 10 acres left. I tell the school children you have to erase all the houses, all the pavement, all the sidewalks. Imagine a home in the country. That's what this would have looked like. And they named it Ivy Green because of the English ivy growing everywhere, and then we actually still have a lot today. 85% of what you'll see is original because it stayed in the family through all the decades. So not only clothing, but you'll see a lot of furnishings and clothing and things that belong to Helen. I can't believe that we still have some of this stuff. Now this was, like I said, like a big farm, so think about gardens and orchards and farm animals. Everything was made, raised, or grown right here. It was a cotton plantation. Now this is Helen's father who grew up here. His name was Arthur Keller. He was a captain in the Confederate Army. Hello, how are you?
Thank you.
If you'll go straight to the back, she'll check you in.
Okay.
He was an attorney. He was editor of the local newspaper, and he was a farmer. He and his first wife, Sarah, had 2 boys, James and Simpson. Sarah got sick and died after 10 years of marriage. Then he married Kate Adams from Memphis, Tennessee, and that's Helen's mother. He and Kate had 3 children. Helen was their first. They had a daughter, Mildred, and a son, Phillips Brooks. Kate's family descended from 2 of our presidents, John Adams and John Quincy Adams. Her father was a brigadier general. She was very well-read, very educated for an 1800s girl. Moving here was definitely a lifestyle change for Kate. This was a working plantation. We laugh sometimes, say, I bet Kate didn't know what she was getting herself into. But when they married, there were family members still living in the house. He had a sister, Eveline, who spent her life in the museum room, would have been her bedroom. The boys from the previous marriage were here. He decided the little cottage would be their bridal suite. So that's what it turned into, and that's where Helen was born. So when you go out there and look, you'll see what looks like their bedroom. It's all original out there. Helen was born June the 27th, 1880. She was a healthy, normal child. Everything was going perfectly until 19 months. She got very sick, ran a high fever, and the high fever left her completely deaf, completely blind. More modern doctors said that was either scarlet fever or maybe meningitis. Kind of leaned more toward scarlet fever. The family was heartbroken. They went to any doctor they would learn about. There just wasn't anything anyone could do. In the following years, Helen's behavior became pretty terrible. She was highly intelligent and very frustrated. And it showed in those tantrums and mischievous tricks she would pull. But she could be very unruly, very difficult to deal with. And they didn't know how to teach her, and they let her just get by with everything. When Helen was 6 years old, they learned of an eye specialist in Baltimore, Maryland. They got on the train, went to see him. He said, I can't help but take her to see Alexander Graham Bell. He was often in Washington, D.C. at that time. He was a teacher of the deaf. Had married one of his students. His wife was deaf as well as his mother. Probably our phone was invented. He was always coming up with ways. If you'll just scoot right to the back, please. It's okay. 6-year-old Helen sat on his lap, met him. They were lifelong friends. After spending time with her, he's the one that told the family she doesn't need a doctor, she needs a teacher. He told them about Perkins School for the Blind, which is near Boston in Watertown, Massachusetts. He said, write a letter to Perkins. Maybe someone from that school would come to your home in Tuscumbia, Alabama. This is the teacher that came in response to their request. Her name was Annie Sullivan. Ann Sullivan, we always call her Annie, like the children did. Ann had a sad, sad background. Her family were very poor, Irish immigrant potato farmers. Her mother died young of tuberculosis, which was rampant. She and her little crippled brother Jimmy were abandoned. They were taken to a poorhouse and left. The little brother didn't live very long, bothered her the rest of her life. Annie had had eye infections, no money for medicine, so it had been ignored. The poorhouse was very unsanitary. What she had was trachoma from bacteria. So Annie was going more and more blind every year in the poorhouse. She went to school for the very first time at age 14, begged some people to let her get out so she could learn to read. She qualified for the blind school. She attended Perkins. She was very behind and out of place. She ended up being the valedictorian of her class. And while she was there, they did surgeries on her eyes, which helped, but she was still legally blind when she came here. She had several surgeries in her lifetime. She always had terrible eye problems. So there she was, needed a job. The Kellers needed help. She got on the train and came. $25 a month plus room and board. Very good income. When you go upstairs in a moment, you'll find 2 bedrooms. Boys in the family, always on that right side bedroom. This side was the room Helen and Annie shared. The little bed is where Helen slept. The bigger bed was the teacher's. Helen's desk is still up there. Sweet little Helen locked the teacher up in the bedroom just a few days after she arrived. And since no one could find the key that day, they had to bring a tall ladder from the barn, put it up to the window that you'll see, and imagine the teacher climbing out the ladder to get out of the house. Don't you know she thought, what have I gotten myself into here? Now, in the movie, they, for drama, had her dropping the key down the well, but we actually have the key on display in the museum room. Helen wrote in her own book that she hid it under a big piece of furniture. From day one, Annie would give Helen objects, let her feel of the object, then she would name the object using the manual alphabet with the letters spelled into her hand. Helen was so smart, she quickly caught on to the feel of the letters. She was spelling everything back to the teacher, but Helen thought it was a game they were playing. Just 1 month and 2 days after Annie arrived, they were at the pump that you'll see in the backyard. And with the water flowing over Helen's hands and Annie spelling W-A-T-E-R over and over, Helen later wrote that when she felt the cool, wet something flowing over her hands, it brought back a little flash memory of Wawa, what she had called water at 19 months, and that the light bulb went off. She suddenly realized, excuse me, she suddenly realized that Annie was telling her everything has a name and you have a way to communicate. Helen learned 30 words that afternoon, and by end of summer, 625 words. She learned to read Braille. She mastered Braille by age 10. At age 10, she also decided she wanted to speak with her voice, even though she was totally deaf. So Helen and Annie went to the Wright Humason School in New York. They both learned the technique called vibration speaking. Helen would literally have to feel her teacher's tongue movement for every sound, as well as the lip movements and the vibrations that she would feel in her throat. Through that technique, Helen learned to talk. She gave talks all over the world, but she never heard herself. Isn't that amazing? Helen and Annie went to several schools. They went back and forth to Perkins. They went to the deaf schools in Boston and New York, a girls' school, Cambridge School for Girls, high school level. Very difficult curriculum. And then at age 20, she said, I want a college degree. She went to Radcliffe College, which was the sister school to Harvard. She graduated in 4 years with honor. She was the first deafblind in the world to have a college degree. It was 50 more years before any other did from any school anywhere. So that was quite difficult, quite the challenge, but they did that. And then after that, they did several different things, but the way Helen became world famous, she was a counselor for the American Foundation for the Blind, and that's the job that sent her on 5 of our 7 continents. We know of 35 countries that Helen toured on. She was helping blind, deaf, talk to government officials. That was her mission, changing the world's understanding of handicap and what could be done to help. And so Helen lived to be almost 88. She was 87 and 11 months old when she died in her sleep in Easton, Connecticut. Her teacher stayed with her 50 years. Annie died first in 1936, but she had Polly. Polly Thompson had been hired to be their secretary. Polly had learned to care for her and do everything for her, so she continued as her, with her, took care of her too. So Polly was with her 46 years, and then Annie was with her 50 years. So all three ladies, their lives were spent together. Now, if you have a question, I bet you'll find the answer in our frequently asked question sheets. But if you don't find the answer to something you're concerned about, you can find either one of us and we'll be glad to help. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the rooms and then you can just spread all out and feel comfortable. Master bedroom, hand-carved bed, handmade rug, beautiful old crazy quilt made by Helen Keller, over 100 years old. A picture of Helen's brother, Phillips Brooks Keller. She named him herself after her friend, the Episcopalian minister Phillips Brooks. He was 10 years younger than Helen. And there's a picture of Helen at age 13. This is the parlor. Lamps were oil lamps converted to electricity. Helen's great-great-great-grandparents are pictured over the sofa. That's Alexander and Anna Spotswood. He was the early colonial governor of Virginia. If you visit around Williamsburg in the state of Virginia, you'll hear the name Spotswood a lot. Captain Keller's desk is on the back left wall. The top folds down to make a writing surface. You'll see a painting of Helen done by a traveling artist when she was 15. I don't think it's very pretty, but it's history. I think Helen was a very attractive person. I don't think the artist captured her too well. There's a head wreath, at least 165 years old, made of hand-spun woolen thread wound around tiny wires. When you look in the dining room, the table is not the one that was here when Helen was here, but the dishes are the original family china, what's left. So I'm sure Helen ate from those plates. The silver in the dining room is the oldest thing in the house, over 200 years old. It came from England, passed through the generations. And to your left is the sugar chest where they would lock up the brown, hard, unrefined cones or blocks of sugar that they got 2 shipments per year. And then the museum room, we've tried to label everything in there, so I think you'll find it easy to read and figure out. The original kitchen and cook's bedroom is where it's always been, in the backyard. The famous pump, it's okay to take a picture by it if you'd like. When you get to the cottage, there's 2 doors. Pull the storm doors back, all original, like stepping back in time out there. The little ice house was built back in 2009. The DVD that plays on the left side of the property is not Helen, it's her speech. That's the Lions Club walk. She went to their convention in Ohio. She challenged them to be the Knights of the Blind. All over the world, Lions Clubs help people with vision problems because of that speech. So that's why it's reenacted. Not her, reenacted. And then on the very back of the property is an old log cabin that's just typical of what would have been on the 640 acres. So if you want to walk there. There are restrooms behind the old kitchen.
Dear lions and ladies, I suppose you have heard the legend that represents opportunity as a capricious lady who knocks on every door but one. And if the door isn't open quickly, she passes on, never to return. And that is as it should be. Lovely, desirable ladies won't wait. You have to go out and grab them. I am your opportunity. I am knocking at your door. I want to be adopted. The legend doesn't say what you are to do when several beautiful opportunities present themselves at the same door. I guess you have to choose the one you love best. I hope you will adopt me. I am the youngest here, and what I offer you is full of splendid opportunities for service. Try to imagine how you would feel if you were suddenly stricken blind today. Picture yourself stumbling and groping at noonday as in the night. Your worth, your independence gone. You have heard how from the fingers of another, a ray of light from another soul touched the darkness of my mind, and I found myself, found the world, found God. It is because my teacher learned about me and broke through the dark silent imprisonment which held me that I am able to work for myself and others. The opportunity I bring to you, lions, is this. Will you not help me hasten the day when there will be no preventable blindness, no little deaf blind child untaught, no blind man or woman unaided? I appeal to you, lions, you who have your sight, you who are strong and kind and brave. Will you not constitute yourselves as knights of the blind in the crusade against darkness? Thank you.